Hello and welcome to Steps to Investing on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with us, or of course visit stepstoinvesting.com. Well, today we're talking about the differences between men and women when they're investing, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Simon Reed, who has written on this in the past. Welcome to the show, Simon. Perhaps if I could start by asking you just to say a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and really how you got into this idea of writing about investing.
I've been a personal finance writer for about 30 years, working for a number of different publications. I was most recently the personal finance editor at the Independent newspaper for 7 years before it closed. I've also been doing a bit of television, BBC One, a program called Right on the Money. And so I've largely been writing about personal finances, which a big important part of that, of course, is investment.
And you put this piece together about the differences between men and women. And if I can sort of praise it, I think what you were saying was that women tend to invest less frequently and less money. But when they do invest, they're better at it than men. Why is that?
Well, there's lots of reasons why women don't invest. They're put off by the jargon, by the sort of image of this investing being a man's game, a world of the city, which can be quite scary. Also, they haven't really got time. Women tend to have busier lives, whether they're raising a family and working or just running a household. The time to sit down and, if you like, play with investments, they just haven't got. So that really is why that puts them off doing it.
And this thing about jargon, I mean, that's an age-old problem, isn't it? It goes right back, I suspect, to when you started writing.
There's always been a problem with jargon. I think it's deliberate. A lot of big investment companies like to, if you like, hide what they're doing by using complicated terms. And it does put all people off, really. Men are more likely to bluff that they understand it, I think. Women want to know the truth. They're much more pragmatic in their approach.
And what did you find when you were looking at this in terms of the difference in approach? Women take a longer term view, is that what it's about?
It is. Women tend to plan much more. So they need to know why they're investing, what they're investing for. So whether it's for retirement or for the children's savings or university fees, they have that sort of plan. And that's in the forefront of their mind. So they're investing for a purpose. Whereas men tend to much more think, I've got this cash, I know, I'll have a bit of a gamble, if you like, with it.
And so it's analogous to betting on a horse, or going down the bookies, or something of that.
It is a bit. Men like to talk about their successes. It's part of what men do. They stand around the pub saying, "Look, I put some money in this share and it's doubled. Look at me, I've done really well." Women are much more likely to talk about the finances in much broader terms. Like, "Oh, I'm really trying to save up £10,000, £100,000 for this purpose, and I'm getting there slowly but surely."
And that's what makes them better, is that they have a plan rather than having an ego?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. They have a plan rather than an ego. That's a really nice way to put it. Also they tend to think about investing in much wider terms. So they will not likely to take a punt on an individual share, whereas men are likely to. So women are more likely to put their money into funds, which are sort of collective investments, which might invest in a whole range of shares. And the more broadly you invest, the less risky it is.
And I was going to say, that comes down to risk, doesn't it? That's the effect of diversification, lowering risk, which is appealing to the female psyche rather than the male psyche.
Well, the really interesting factor, and this research that was published at the end of last year, is that because of this process, the way that women invest, they tend to do, right, and this is a very small figure, it's 0.8%, so they tend to do 0.8% better on a sort of annual basis than men. Now, that's not much difference, is it? But if you take that over 30 years, that would give them a 25% bigger portfolio than a man.
Wow, that's quite a stat.
It's a massive stat, and it shows the difference of that, if you like, slow and steady, which women tend to do, because they're not emotional about it. They're pragmatic, rather than the big I am that men tend to do.
I wanted to ask you about emotion, because in the last show we had one of our fund managers talking about that, and talking about how he tries to remove emotion from the process. And I guess what you're saying is this is what what women are doing when they are thinking.
It's an odd thing, because we tend to think of women as being more emotional than men, but not when it comes to investing, because this is, to them, is for a purpose. It's not a game, it's a need.
So, Simon, time for a personal question. You've been writing about investing for a long time, but do you invest, or have you invested for yourself?
Over the years, I've done a lot of investing, both in shares and in funds. Not terribly successfully, to be honest, all the time. One particular example comes to mind. A few of us had an investment club a few years ago. This is where we used to meet once a month, put in regular money into a fund, and then decide where to put that money. And it's a good way of stepping into the market, without having too much exposure, having a bit of fun, actually discussing different companies and different opportunities. It was really good fun. We invested in a mining company, a penny stock. It's 4.5p. I remember when we stuck about 500 quid in it. And it was one of those punts. Most of our investments were in quite safer blue chip stocks. This was a punt. And we had it for months, and one day it kind of took off. I think they probably revealed they'd found some gold or something like this, and suddenly it's 45p. And I rang up the other members of the group, there were 6 of us, and said, look, this is 45p, our £500 is now worth £5,000. We should sell up, we should take our profits. The woman in the group agreed with me. All the men said, no, this is just beginning. Let's invest more in it. And I had to persuade them not to invest more money. We stuck with that right down. Eventually, I think we sold at 8p, so we made a tiny profit. But we could have made a big profit if we hadn't had so many men in the group. We could have sold out, but they were things that men always do. They remain loyal to something. They think they want to be big and bold rather than pragmatic, and that's a mistake. Another example is I had a fund, an ISA. I put some money into an ISA, £7,000, and I decided to put it into a tracker fund. Because I thought, well, I wasn't sure what to do, and this is a sort of safe alternative. Tracker fund just replicates a market. This is the FTSE. So I thought this would be fine. Sadly, I invested at the top of the market in around 2000. Within a year, the FTSE had halved in price, so my tracker had halved in price. So I thought I'll leave it. I won't panic. I'll come back to it when it's recovered. It took about 10 years for it to recover, and I can remember going back and looking at my ISA to see how it done, assuming that it would still be roughly around about 7,000, and it was less than 4,000. It almost halved in value, and I thought, well, what's going on here? I'd forgotten about the charges, and I had chosen a completely wrong fund where charges on a tracker were 5%. These were outrageous. Wouldn't happen today because you don't need to pay that much. But I got suckered into this for all sorts of reasons, and the charge is 5% a year over 10 years. That's basically 50% of my money had just gone in charges.
To your point then, if you're paying 5% per annum just in charges, your performance, the thing that you've bought, has to perform better than 5%
Exactly.
just to stand still. And as you say, the compounding effect of that kind of over that period has had a huge effect. Yeah, definitely something to look out for, and definitely something to check. Not just, of course, the charges for the tracker itself, but the thing that you're putting it in, the charges for the ISA itself.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing your insight. Just before we finish, give me your top 3 tips. If you're talking to a man who's thinking about investing, but he should be taking a more female approach, what should he be doing?
Okay, well, first thing is not to be so emotional about it. Actually have a plan and decide how long you're going to invest for. So it may be that you want to raise, let's say, £100,000 by the time you retire. So then think, how are you going to achieve it? Don't think, right, I need to invest in something that's going to make lots of money quickly. Think, I've got 10 years, I've got 30 years, whatever it is, and therefore, how much I need to invest every month to get to this level. Work on a realistic basis. How much returns can you expect in the next 10, 20, 30 years? 7% a year, 5% a year? Take the lowest value and then see how much you need to save to get to what you want. And just be pragmatic about it. Don't be emotional.
That's fantastic advice. Simon, thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you well with your future investing. Hope it gets better.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching and taking the time to join us today too. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay in touch, and of course there's more on stepstoinvesting.com. Join us next time and we'll be back for more. Thank you very much. Goodbye.